Good morning, hockey fans. This is Steven Heisler with HeisHockey.com and the Victorious Hockey Company with today's Junior Hockey Morning Show, Wednesday, January 17th, 2023. We are on the World Sports Broadcasting Network, WSBN.TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and more. Notice my hatless head today. 2 days in a row you get me without a hat. This is a new record, Thomas. I've never gone more than 2 straight days. I think one other time I was hatless. Why am I not wearing a hat? Because young Tomas has my schedule completely jammed up today. Right after the show, I'm going to be running over to the dealership to fix a light bulb because I am unable to fix it myself. Okay, that's how it is today. USA Hockey Standards Czar. That's today's show topic. First, Toronto needed overtime to beat the Panthers 5-4 at Scotiabank Arena last night in Toronto. Leafs, I don't care if you need overtime or shootout. Just get the W, baby. That's a good way to wake up in the morning. Went to bed early, woke up, Leafs won. Cheers to Leaf Nation. Yes, there are many, many other National Hockey League teams out there. Way too many. We can use a few more, maybe. But the facts are, I am bleeding blue and white. Have been since birth. Can't change it. It's a part of my character flaw. They won a cup in 1967 when I was still in diapers. I think they're waiting for that to happen again. Tomas, it's been ugly. Being a Leafs fan is not healthy. A lot of heartbreak. What is your favorite National Hockey League team? The Leafs. He knows that if he answers that question incorrectly, his grandparents will come down from heaven and strike him down and give him a third leg. Well, a third arm, not a third leg. That would be inappropriate. No games in the USHL last night. No games today. Same goes for the North American Hockey League. When was the last time those two leagues came out in the same day with nothing to say? It's a rare occurrence. Never happens. North American Hockey League always has something to say. Something every day. Nothing from yesterday. Nothing for today. So if I were the king of junior hockey, that's today's topic. I do this usually once a week, unless the schedule is jammed up or messed up. This week's a little weird with the trip back from Michigan. One of the first orders of business would be to clone the character and principles of former USA Hockey Board of Directors and Vice President head Dave Tyler into a newly created position of Standards Enforcement Czar. Standards. Tier standards. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. All three have standards. There are standards that are written in the book, in the guidebook. Things that leagues and teams have to maintain. It's been said that the reason we have so much non-sanctioned Tier 3 standards these days, or Tier 3 leagues, is because of these standards. Maybe that's the case. If Tyler was running the show, guys like Dave Boyce, Tony Da Silva, and others would be melted into obsolescence. When the situation with the Wilderness came down over the offseason, Tyler would have simply shut them down pending the outcome of a complete safe sport investigation. Too much smoke for there not to be fire around that situation in Cloquet. Team's doing really well this year. Boyce is still hanging around. Nobody would have questioned Dave Tyler either. Instantly, that program would have been mothballed until something came to a head. There's no way Boyce would be operating that team this year and serving as a general manager, really having an influence over those kids' career. It's not good. Coffee is fantastic today, Tommy. Fantastic. How would Tyler have dealt with the non-sanctioned junior hockey leagues? I don't think Dave would ever allow the USPHL to be formed. Initially, they were part of the USA Hockey, and they dropped out later on. That's a fact. Can't really question that. But the truth is, that whole situation started from the old EJHL, and the operators didn't like how one of the teams was acquired. Some of the guys broke up the EJHL, which is arguably the most successful pay-to-play junior league in the history of the United States. But it happened. Tier standards appear to be little more than suggestions. How would Tyler handle the issues today? Tyler ran junior hockey with an iron fist. Teams wouldn't dare try doing what they do today. All it would take was one parent phone call to Tyler. If they got through, Tyler's going to address the situation. And if he found that the standards were not maintained or the team was cutting corners, he would simply fine that team or fine that owner. No questions asked. No one questioned Dave Tyler when it came to those situations. If you didn't toe the line, you were put in the back of the line. Period. Lots of fines in clubs or leagues would have been demoted or suspended, clearly. Tier standards came along with the move from leagues being junior A, B, or C to simply tier 1, 2, or 3. How would Dave view the mess today? Dave's here in Florida. He can speak for himself. He won't talk to me. I don't know why. Maybe he just is out of it because he's retired. Good guy. Dave left the office of VP Juniors in June of 2007, having done most of the changes to junior A, B, and C into tier 1, 2, and 3. His thought process was to have one tier 1 league, one tier 2 league, and everything else tuition-based became tier 3, A, B, and C. Okay, they just call it all tier 3A. God only knows why. It's confusing to the marketplace. Maybe that's by design. With a new batch of kids coming in every year, we all know there's a big difference between the Boston Junior Bruins and the Sheridan Hawks. We know there's a big difference between the elite league of the USPHL and a tier 3 league team in Montana. There's a big difference. To say there's not is ludicrous. But in the marketplace, they're all considered the same. And the same thing happens in the NCAA, right? So if you're playing NCAA football and you're at the University of Texas and you got to play Tulane, well, Tulane this year was a pretty good football team. But we all know that both those schools aren't the same when it comes to athletics. The Texas football budget alone blows out the entire Tulane athletic budget for every team they have. It's just they're not playing on equal ground. LSU was much more financially strong and difficult to play against than Tulane or Louisiana Tech. It's just a different opportunity, different level of play. We know they're all at the same level officially, but in reality, they're not. Same goes with the Canadian Junior Hockey League. The BCHL was on a plane that was much higher than the rest of the Canadian Junior Hockey League. When the BCHL broke off, the CJHL guys got their feelings hurt, but they really got it. Kids understand it. So it's clear that USA Hockey has lost control of junior hockey, and it's too bad. Because under Dave Tyler, the confusion never would have been there in the first place. There would have been clear separation between the levels of play. The Junior Council itself has lost the reason to even exist. But maybe that's why now is a perfect time for the game's governing body to step up standards of enforcement. Look, there are tier standards. USA Hockey has 3 leagues now. at the junior level, USHL, NAHL, and A3. That's it. Maintaining standards in those three leagues should not be a question. But somehow it is. Maybe a compliance czar is just a thing the game needs for USA Hockey to maintain relevance. I get that. Why not appoint somebody that's a little hard-headed, that's a little hard-nosed, that's going to go dig into situations? If a team is cutting corners and not living up to their end of the responsibility or their end of the player agreement, then they should be punished for that. Kids should get what they pay for. If you're doing pay-to-play hockey, make sure you're delivering what you promised. Period. Putting 5 goalies on the roster, 6 goalies on the roster, ludicrous. Shouldn't be allowed to roster more than 3. Shouldn't be allowed to take more than contracts from 3 or money from 3 players for goalies. Now we hear about non-sanctioned teams being able to protect 70 players. 70 players? Such a czar can stop a lot of baloney before it starts. The czar could have visited the Gong Show in Sheridan and put an end to the stupidity years ago. Things are cleaned up there now. But back when that situation was at its head, a czar could have drove to Sheridan and cleaned house. That's what needed to happen. Didn't happen. The czar would have been able to tell Mark Frankenfeld, North American Hockey League Commissioner, that standards are rules and not suggestions. That was the most ludicrous thing I ever heard in my life when we were told that the NAHL commissioner thought standards were just suggestions. This was regarding to stick purchases a couple years ago. But right now we're dealing with a fee that the Kenai River Brown Bears charge their players, allegedly. There you go. Don't get sued. Say allegedly. You got it? So we were told earlier in the season that one of the players was actually in the seats, dressed down, because he wasn't going to pay the $600 or $800 fee that Nate Keel came up with as a, I guess it was a fitness fee, fitness and equipment fee, completely against standards. Under Dave Tyler's watch, that would never have happened. Never. Other teams are charging for main camps this year. Go to camp, go to pre-draft camp. Okay, it was training camp. I'm sorry. Pre-draft, got to pay for that. Main camp, got to pay for that. The training camp before the season starts, $600 more? Are you kidding me? That happened this year. Maine Nordiques. The czar would have had the power to scare buildings, arenas, hockey rinks, from allowing predators like Tony De Silva into the facilities. How is this guy still walking around junior hockey? At least within sanctioned hockey, there's no reason for Tony De Silva to be talking to players in the tunnel. No way. Here he is. Going after the same age kids he did before. He loves those 16-year-old kids. Those are his favorite. Unreal. The czar would have the authority to suspend yahoos like Boyts when leagues refuse to do it themselves. Absolutely. How is that guy still walking around? Other guys who are under safe sport investigation within the North American Hockey League, within youth hockey, how are those guys walking around still in the rinks while safe sport investigations are going on? We need a compliance czar to be the equivalent of Dave Tyler. Someone that's going to come in and absolutely step up. And maybe give that guy a commission. Here's your set of standards to maintain. Here's the fine for each standard that is not followed. And when you break the rules, you get fined, and that guy gets half. Pays for it himself. I'm sure we can find someone to take that job. USA Hockey, step up. Give someone that authority. Doing so would make it better for all hockey players, for all of them. When they know what they're going to get, what they're paid for. They know if they go to the Tier 2 level of play in the North American Hockey League, here's the minimum standards to expect from this team. If you can't maintain the standards, get out of the level of play. Sell your membership to somebody else. It's ridiculous that we still are talking about this today. After all these years, tier standards continues to be a reason to question certain leagues. Enough already. Do your end of the deal. Pay to play teams, make a contract. Like some of the contracts we see today are completely one-sided. Non-sanctioned hockey is famous for this. Or the only promises made on the contract are the parents' pay structure. Here, you have to pay this by this date, that by this date. But when it comes to the team side of it, there is no guarantees. No guarantees of playing time. You can get cut without a refund in most cases. That's crazy. Or you may sign a free-to-play contract you think is free-to-play or a little pay-to-play, and then all of a sudden you're dropped to a different roster. That's $12,000 a year. That's crazy. In Canada, we see it as well. You can go from a free-to-play team, get traded to a pay-to-play team. Now you got to pay. And if you don't pay, you get suspended. That's crazy. Those things have got to go away. Canada has got to fix that problem. Players aren't meat markets. But the same problems we have with standards here in the U.S., you see in Canada as well. The NOJHL, famous for that. The SIJHL, oh my goodness. We hear it all the time. Standards. Teams, do your part. Owners, if you can't maintain the standards, please sell your team or drop to a level of play that you can maintain. If you're an NAHL team and you can't comply with standards, then get out of the league. There's $1 million price tag on that membership now. If you can't do it, sell it. Now's the perfect time. But for the most part, Tomas, we don't hear very many complaints for the North American Hockey League. Occasionally. Kenai River is an exception year after year. But other teams in the league are doing a good job. Even El Paso. I'll say it. Something nice about El Paso. Corey Herman, haven't had a complaint from one of your players yet when it comes to standards within the North American Hockey League or the NA3HL. Amarillo's a new team. They're doing it right. Not a big Harry Mahood fan. Amarillo's doing it right. And even the Minnesota Wilderness haven't heard a complaint as far as players are concerned in years. That's a good sign. So kids are getting their end of the deal with those teams. And it's good. Some issues last year with some teams coming back from COVID. Jamestown was a bit strange. They fixed that situation. Ken Dennis is no longer in the North American Hockey League. That team is now in Philadelphia. So standards are being maintained. No complaints from Philadelphia. So these are all good things. Most of the complaints we're hearing are coming from Tier 3. And it's crazy. Operators, if you can't do it, please get out. If you're doing this for your kids, good. Let them play their games, buy their roster spots, let them age out, and you age out as well. Sell that team. That's it for today, Tommy. 20-minute show today. That's it. Listen, tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Maybe I'll have a guest tomorrow. I'll try to get one to come on. Also, if you think you want to be my backup co-host when we don't have a guest, I can use somebody to come in and be a regular part of the show. Doesn't pay very much. Doesn't pay anything. I thought about bringing Tim Madsen in, but he's too pretty for me. I can't put my head next to Tim Madsen's head all the time. I have a face for radio, and Tim, he's a rock star. So, sorry, Tim. Can't be you. Thought about Mike Stanaway, but that wouldn't be fair to other teams and Mike looks like he's sleeping every morning when he's on the show. Mike Stanaway? Oh, yeah. I can bring back Eric Ballard. He's always professional. But 7 o'clock in the morning in Wyoming is difficult for him. So preferably somebody on the East Coast, or if you're in the Bahamas, you know about hockey. The Virgin Islands, you know about hockey. Puerto Rico, no hablo español. No entiendo. So that's it for today, folks. We hope that you